going on, Jurko? It's camp day for the Chicago Bears. Everyone's reporting.
Yeah, it is camp day. It's the beginning. It's the genesis. It's the opening. It's the alpha. Is it the alpha? Yeah.
Sure.
The alpha and the omega, right?
Yeah.
The beginning and the end. It's the beginning of what is hoping to be a promising season for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
And I think when we look at that, Jurko, I think what we've built over the last couple of months with the draft and free agency, this has to be one of the most anticipated training camps and starts to a football season that I can remember. I know the other day, Abdallah and I were discussing this, and then I think I was also talking with Jonathan Hood about this. You know, if you go back throughout the last 40 years of Bears football, the summer of '86 clearly would be highly anticipated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Coming off of that great season. There were a couple lovey years where you thought you had a chance. You made a Super Bowl run. This team will get back there. Maybe they'll improve. There was maybe a Cutler year tossed in here and there. But there's not too many years in Bears football where you have the anticipation to the start of a season that matches what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and where you kind of know that good things are going to happen. Not you're hoping, not that you're praying. You're coming off a 7-win campaign. You played better in the second half, and you're hoping that continues on into this year. That momentum that was built last year gets reestablished during training camp, and you hit the ground running when the season opens on September 8th.
And I think that's what you hear, and I know the morning show played some clips of various ESPN personalities on shows this morning and yesterday, you know, calling out either Caleb Williams or they don't think this team's going to be as good as people think. And that's fair. You can have that opinion, but I do think that a lot of that goes to people just looking at the number one pick going to the Chicago Bears and not putting two and two together, that the reason the Bears have that pick is because they made a trade from the year prior, and that's the spot that Carolina should have been drafting. And the Bears are a 7-win team. And I think I've looked at this the entire offseason, and tell me if I'm wrong, Jurko, if Caleb Williams can just give us a little bit more than what Justin Fields gave us last year in his rookie year, this team is going to be better than a 7-win team.
In the passing game.
In the passing game.
He gives us more in the passing game. If he can do that, if he can be competent back there as a quarterback that can read, then yes, because there were so many chances last year and so many opportunities maybe to get the football out of hand that we never realized what could have or could not have been done. There were flashes. There were times where it looked good, but ultimately we don't know how many missed opportunities there were unless you went back and broke down the film and said, here, 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 here. So the first domino of the fall was when they said, hey, we're going to move on from the quarterback. That was the first domino of the fall for this team to become a better team in 2024.
And that's why I like what you said just moments ago about how this is an offseason where we're entering a football season where it's not just hoping that they should be better. We kind of know they will be better because of what they accomplished last year and then the additions made offensively to this team. I don't think it's likely, like if we had to play out the percentages, how likely this team is a bottom feeder team this season, I think would be pretty unlikely.
Yeah, it's
to all collapse, I think it would be pretty unlikely.
Like a 3% chance or opportunity, something like that, 2% chance. I mean, that low, that's how low it is.
The largest piece of the pie would be they're right in the middle, which is kind of where they were last year, but maybe a game or two better.
Right.
But right in the middle, that would be the largest piece of the pie.
It's probably the 60% pie.
And then
the 3% pie, and then there's the 37% pie that they're going to be a lot better than people think.
And that would leave a small percentage then where this team might actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think
which is where I'm at.
Yeah,
I'm in that percentage.
I'm not willing to say 14, 13 wins, but I think this team could get to 10.
Yeah.
And I think that they could challenge
Well, 13, 14 is next level, absolutely superior.
Exactly.
I predicted 11. That's where I see it. If they fall a little short, 10 would be acceptable. Double-digit wins. 3-game improvement from last year. Good. That's fine. 10-7 should get you into the playoffs. Should not be an issue. The dilemma and the problem is you look at the schedule, you've got to make headway early, the first 9 games of the year. You have to do something, and you have to cause some damage there. That's where it's going to be. That's where you're going to be able to kind of figure out what this team's going to be all about. Can they beat teams that are very beatable? And can you establish yourself as a team that knows how to win, especially when it comes late in games? This is when that's going to happen. If they can get that done in the first 9, that puts themselves in a position maybe to do something special this year, or at the very least get to those 11 wins that we talk about, which I think would be a tremendous year for them, 11-6.
I could see a situation where out of those first 9, there are 2 pretty difficult games.
Yes.
The road game, second week at Houston,
Yes.
Sunday Night Football. That's going to be a tough game. And then September 29th, home against the Rams. That, to me, is going to be a game that will go a far way into determining who is a wild card team in the NFC and who isn't. If the Bears can take care of business in one of those games and then do what you're saying and just play pretty good football and beat the teams they're better than in the first 9 weeks, they'll set themselves up for success on the back end of the schedule.
You remember the team that went 12-4 in 2018 started 3-3.
Yeah.
They started 3-3, then they went on a tear.
Made a run.
They ended up winning, I think, 9 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. To get to 12-3, they lost the final game of the season, right? So that's how that team went about their business. This team's going to have to do it a different way. They can't trip coming out of the blocks. They can't stumble coming out of the blocks. They've got to play good football. Every one of those teams in that early portion of the schedule, besides Houston, is a winnable game. But Houston, you're going to have to go down and fight. Houston, you're going to have to go down and battle. Houston's going to be a playoff team, so that's going to be a little bit of a precursor of the type of football and the level of football that the Bears are going to have to be able to play for them to get there. But I don't need to see the playoff level football early. I just need to see find ways to win game. Fourth quarter comes. It's going to be tight. Can you close out football games? That's what you're going to be developing early in the season. And if they can develop that early in the season, that's going to help them at the end of the season, help them get to where they need to be.
And what we saw last year in training camp led us to believe and look at the way they started the season that things weren't done the way they should have been. And you were upset at training camp last year. So coming up next, tell us how they can change it. What can they do in training camp to make sure they get off to a fast start? Carmen and Jurko on ESPN.